Hello amigos! The other day I was editing this image in Adobe Lightroom Classic and Lightroom was really sluggish. I was getting really frustrated and I did what most of us would have done. I quit Lightroom, I restarted it, same problem. I turned off my computer, I restarted the computer in Lightroom, same problem. But I think I found the issue, and the problem was that I wasn't following Adobe's recommendations. Let me show you. So here we are. This is the image that I show you. And I had done some global edits, local edits. I had used mask, subject mask, background mask with object. And then I done a couple radial gradient filters. I also had done some remove and so on. And my frustration was because towards the end of my edit, I wanted to soften the background a bit more. So I wanted to use the lens blur. And as I was using the lens blur and changing the blur amount, Lightroom was really slow in updating. And when I changed the type of bokeh or bokeh, even got worse. It took a long time to respond. I was trying to make changes and I couldn't even move the dial. I had to wait for it. Also, you see the yellow icon here for AI status updates. And clicking on the icon shows me that I had done remove, I had lens blur, and I had masking, and masking needed to be updated. Even though I haven't changed the mask, I was only doing with the lens blur. And I could click on update and it will take 10-15 seconds to update. But if I then change the lens blur a little bit more, I needed to do the update again. So things were not working my way. So I started researching the issue, and what I found was this page from Adobe, where Adobe actually has a list of the recommended sequence for doing edits. I think in the past, when we didn't have AI in Lightroom, I got used to do the edits in any order that fit my workflow. Basically, all those edits were based on math. 1 + 1 = 2. And it didn't affect much the performance if I changed the order. If I did global edits and then I did, for example, sharpening, or I did one of the non-AI masks, things worked very smoothly. But in the last few years, we've been getting more and more AI tools like the AI mask, AI remove, lens blur, and more recently, the adaptive color profile. So I put a link to the page for Adobe Camera Raw and also for Lightroom in the description of the video. If we scroll down, we're going to see the order of AI operations that Adobe recommends. And it says the recommended order of operations to avoid unexpected results and achieve the best output as possible. And I think a third item is that Lightroom is also more responsive. For example, doing HDR first. That's not an AI type of operation, but it recommends doing HDR first. I don't use HDR. Denoise, and I think it refers here to the AI denoise, raw details and super resolution, and then a number of removal type of operations, reflections, people, removing dust, early access in Adobe Camera Raw is not available in Lightroom yet, generative expand, which is a tech preview in Adobe Camera Raw, not available in Lightroom yet. But then we have generative remove, content aware remove, heal, and clone. Lens blur is number 8. And then we start getting to regular edits, lens profile. Crop and transform is number 10. Usually that's one of the first things that I was doing, and here Adobe is recommending it happens until much later. Adaptive profiles like the new Adobe Color profile. Global adjustments and masking, and here we have the AI mask and the standard mask like the radio filter, for example. Adobe says that by using these sequence, things work better. What I did is I copy and pasted into a document And I created my own list that now I'm gonna keep next to my computer when I edit, because I need to get used to the new workflow. So let's go edit this image from scratch. So I created a virtual copy of the image, and we're gonna start from scratch. Everything has been reset. Number one, HDR, I'm not doing. The noise, well, this image was taken at ISO 500. The noise is not much. However, the bird is a little dark, and I'm gonna bring up the shadows, so we may have some noise there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna close mask, and I'm gonna go to detail and click on AI denoise. It's gonna tells me 6 seconds, it's gonna process, and I'll come back when it's done. Steps 5 and 6 from the list don't apply to this image. We don't have those capabilities in Lightroom yet. So we go to step number 7. Anything related to remove, AI remove, content aware remove. And here's where it gets a little tricky, because as I typically remove after I crop. Now, granted, if you crop and then you try to remove things that are on the edge or close to the edge, the results are not very good unless you expand your selection outside the cropped image. But that's for another video. Anyway, so there are at least 3 things I want to remove at this time before cropping. We have this branch here, another branch that is intersecting with the body, and it is another branch on top. So I'm gonna go to remove. I'm gonna use generative AI. I'm gonna select the 3 branches I want to remove. Actually, one more over here. And I'm gonna say remove. Again, it's gonna take a few seconds. I won't bore you. We'll come back when it's done. Okay, it took maybe 12, 13 seconds to get done. It gave me good results. And if we look at the AI status icon, it's not yellow, right? If I click on it, it tells me we had done denoise and remove. And denoise is on top because it takes priority. Anything that happens below it, if I change the noise, it's gonna have to get redone. And that's how you have to think about the list. It's like floors on a building. The noise is floor 1 and the others are on top. If you do things that are on top, the noise doesn't have to be changed. But if I change the noise, all the other things are going to have to get redone. Next on our list is lens blur. I'm going to hit apply. Again, it's going to take a few seconds. It took about 10 seconds to analyze the image. I'm going to change the blur amount, and we can see at this time that Lightroom is quite a bit more responsive. I can see the results very quickly on adjusting the amount. I can change the type of bokeh, and that also was very responsive. And my yellow indicator for AI status hasn't clicked because we haven't done anything higher on the list than blur. So nothing has to get recalculated. So far so good. So I'm going to blur a little bit more, and I like what it did. Now next on our list, lens profile. I'm not doing any of that. Now we get to crop, and I'm going to crop the image. There's a lot of distractions in the background that I don't need. Turn off the lights in Lightroom, something like that. Next on our list, number 11, adaptive profiles. Well, if we go now to basic, I'm being using Adobe Color. Adobe added an AI profile that analyzes the image and is gonna create a custom map for the colors based on the type of image. Let's see what it does for us. So I click on color, and I'm gonna go to adaptive color. And again, it's gonna take a few seconds, and there it is. It did give me a brighter background. It gave me more light on the bird automatically, and I like what it did. So adaptive color, good result. And again, no warning yet on the AI. Now we can do global adjustments. Now we're now in step 12. And exposure, I'm going to bring exposure up a bit. Maybe I'm going to lift the shadows. I'm going to bring a little vibrance to the image. And finally, our local adjustments. We're going to go to mask. So in masking, I'm going to select subject, and it did a very nice job on selecting the bird. And let's see what we're going to do on effects. I'm going to bring texture up. I'm going to bring clarity. I like what it does. I think in point color, I'm going to use the eyedropper to select the red around the eye. And I'm going to increase the luminance, make that area a little brighter, a little more saturated. Again, I'm going to select with the eyedropper. I'm going to select this area which has a little purple. And I'm going to change the hue a little bit. Let's see what it does. A little more purple. See, I like what it's doing. I'm going to increase the saturation and the luminance a bit. And I like that. Now let's create a mask for the background. I selected the background. I'm going to bring the background down a bit. I'm going to change the color in the background, warm it up, and let it to stand out a little more from the blue on the bird. And see, Lightroom is very quick. It's very responsive by using the right order, because AI doesn't have to be computed over and over and over again. And we haven't triggered any warnings yet with the AI operations. And finally, I'm going to do radial gradient right here. I'm going to invert it. And I'm basically going to create my own custom vignette, lower the exposure, bring the highlights up a bit. And if I turn on and off the mask, this is off, this is on, off and on. And I'm going to go to detail and increase the sharpening, create a mask. And again, no warnings trigger, and Lightroom is responsive. Now, I don't like that the remove operations need to be done. It's recommended they be done much earlier than the crop. Why? Because now I have these two leaves or green distractions that I want to eliminate. And so when I go to remove, see how my background changed? I'm just turning remove on and on. This is with remove not active, and this is if I activate it. Basically, it has to go back a few steps on the AI. So now if I do remove and I select with the AI, or it doesn't matter if it's the regular heal, I'm going to click remove, we're going to get a warning. So it did a good job on the remove, but now we have the warning, right? So if I click on the warning, the noise and remove are fine because they're earlier on the priority. Lens blur, it says it's going to have to be redone. It will include the new edits. Adaptive profile will include the new edits, which means we may have some slight color changes. Remember, AI is not math. And then masking will also include new edits. And that hopefully doesn't change the subject match at all, but there's always the risk. So I'm going to click update all. That's going to take a few seconds. Again, we're going to have to wait. And that's why it's better to use the recommended process, because you don't have to redo all the steps. Here, we did it at the end because I end up having to remove something that I didn't remove earlier on. So here it is. Even that operation worked easier. And here is the final image. Well, amigos, as Lightroom continues to add more AI operations, I think we do need to learn to follow the recommended order that Adobe recommends. At least from my experience testing in the last couple of days, it made Lightroom more responsive. If you don't use the right order, you may run into some problems. For example, if you do AI remove after doing mask, it's like punching a hole on the AI masks, because those masks get stored in the catalog. And then those masks have to be recomputed. The example I gave you earlier of doing lens blur after doing masking means that those masks had to be recomputed again. And that just makes Lightroom sluggish. So I recommend that you go to the Lightroom page that I put on the link and print yourself a copy. Make a copy, color code it, get used to the different workflow, and I think it's gonna reduce the frustration level that sometimes we find with Lightroom. Well, amigos, I hope you found this video informative. Don't forget to subscribe, send me your comments or ideas, and I'll see you next time.